Networking in Java is remarkably similar to and can be very intuitively understood by thinking about the everyday familiar experience of making a phone call to someone, because just like a phone call involves two parties who need to find each other and establish a connection before they can begin exchanging information, network communication in Java involves two programs running on potentially different machines anywhere in the world that need to locate each other and establish a reliable communication channel before they can begin sending and receiving data back and forth between themselves. To connect to someone over a phone network, you need two fundamental and absolutely essential pieces of information without which it is completely impossible to reach the person you are trying to call, and the first piece of information is their phone number, which uniquely identifies their specific phone among all the billions of phones that exist in the entire world, and the second piece of information is the specific line or extension you need to dial if the person you are calling has multiple lines available, such as in a large office building where each person has their own dedicated extension number. In the world of Java networking and computer networking in general, these two essential pieces of identifying information have direct and precise equivalence, where the phone number corresponds exactly to the IP address, which is a unique numerical address that identifies a specific computer or device among all the billions of devices connected to the internet and uniquely pinpoints the exact machine on the network that you are trying to communicate with, and the specific line or extension corresponds exactly to the port number, which is a numerical value that identifies the specific application or service running on the destination machine that you want to communicate with, since a single computer can be running many different networked applications simultaneously, each one listening on its own unique port number. There are two main and fundamentally distinct roles or parts that must exist in any networked communication system in Java, and understanding these two roles and how they interact with each other is absolutely essential to understanding how Java networking works at a conceptual level. The first role is the client, which is the active and initiating party in the communication and corresponds exactly to the person who picks up their phone and deliberately dials the number of the person they want to talk to, and in Java we use the socket class to implement the client side of a network connection, because the socket class gives us all the tools and methods we need to specify the IP address and port number of the server we want to connect to and actively reach out across the network and initiate the connection establishment process. The second role is the server, which is the passive and waiting party in the communication and corresponds exactly to the person who is sitting at their desk going about their business while their phone sits on the desk beside them waiting to ring, and in Java we use the server socket class to implement the server side of a network connection, because the server socket class gives us the ability to bind to a specific port number and then enter a state of patient and indefinite waiting, where the server program does nothing except listen on that port for incoming connection requests from client programs that want to establish communication. We call this entire system a two-way communication link, which is another way of saying that once the connection has been successfully established between the client and the server, the communication channel that exists between them is fully bidirectional, meaning that it is not a one-way street where only one party can talk and the other can only listen, but rather both the client and the server have the complete and equal ability to send data to each other and receive data from each other at any time through the same established connection, just like in a real phone call where both the caller and the person who answered can speak and listen freely and naturally throughout the entire duration of the conversation without either party being restricted to only one of those roles. Think of a server socket as a highly professional and dedicated waiter who has been stationed near the entrance of a busy and popular restaurant and whose sole and exclusive responsibility at that particular moment is to stand at the door and watch for incoming customers, and this waiter is not currently engaged in any conversation with anyone and is not taking any orders or serving any food, because his entire focus and attention is directed towards the entrance door, waiting patiently and alertly for the very next customer to walk in and require assistance. The waiter is not doing anything else while he stands at the door, and he is not distracted by anything happening inside the restaurant, and he is not helping any other customers or performing any other tasks because his job at that specific moment is purely and exclusively to wait at the entrance and be ready to respond the instant a new customer arrives. And this is exactly how a server socket behaves in Java, because it binds itself to a specific port number and then does nothing else except wait and listen on that port for incoming connection requests from client programs. In Java code, the server uses a critically important and specially designed method called accept, which is the programmatic equivalent of our waiter standing at the entrance with his full and undivided attention focused on the door, and this method is extraordinarily special and unique compared to most other methods in Java because unlike regular methods that execute their logic and return immediately, the accept method actually pauses and freezes the entire execution of the server program at that exact line of code and holds it in a suspended state of waiting that can last for any amount of time, whether that is a fraction of a second or several minutes or even several hours, depending entirely on how long it takes for the next client to attempt a connection. The moment a customer, which in networking terms we call a client, walks in through the front door of the restaurant and makes their presence known, the waiter who was standing at the entrance immediately snaps out of his waiting state and springs into action because his patient vigil has finally been rewarded with the arrival of someone who needs his assistance. And this is exactly what happens in Java when a client program connects to the server, because the accept method immediately wakes up from its suspended waiting state and begins processing the incoming connection request that the client has just initiated. At that exact and precise moment when the client connects and the accept method wakes up and completes its execution, a brand new socket object is created and returned, and this new socket represents a completely dedicated and exclusive two-way communication channel that exists solely between the server and that one specific client that just connected. And this dedicated socket is like the waiter pulling out his notepad and giving his complete and undivided personal attention to that specific customer in order to take their order and ensure their dining experience is handled properly and professionally from start to finish. This dedicated socket that is created specifically for each individual client allows the server to have a full and complete private conversation with that particular client, including sending data to them and receiving data from them through their own exclusive communication channel that is completely separate from and independent of any communication channels that may exist with other clients. And just like a good restaurant has multiple waiters who can each attend to their own specific table of customers simultaneously, a well-designed Java server can handle multiple client sockets at the same time by assigning each new client connection to its own dedicated thread. The most beautiful and elegant aspect of this entire design is that the front door of the restaurant, which is represented by the server socket, stays wide open and continues to be monitored for new arriving customers even while the waiter is already busy attending to a previously seated customer, because the server socket continues to exist and listen on its port for new incoming connections even while existing client connections are being actively handled. And this means that new clients can continue to connect to the server at any time without having to wait for all the currently connected clients to finish and disconnect first, making the entire system capable of serving many customers simultaneously and efficiently. We import all the classes from the java.io package and the java.net package to gain access to the essential input-output utilities and networking tools that are required for creating a server that can listen for incoming client connections and communicate with those clients by sending and receiving data over a network socket. We create a server socket object called server worker and pass the port number 5000 to its constructor, which instructs the Java networking system to bind our server to port 5000 on the local machine and begin actively listening on that port for any incoming connection requests from client programs that want to establish a communication link with our server, and the port number 5000 serves as the specific doorway or entry point through which all clients must knock in. order to reach and connect to our server application. We call system.out.println to print the message server is waiting on port 5000 to the console, which serves as a clear and informative confirmation to the developer or system administrator running the server that the server socket has been successfully created and bound to port 5000 and that the server is now actively and patiently waiting for a client to arrive and initiate a connection. We call server worker.accept, which is one of the most critically important method calls in the entire server program because this method causes the main thread of the server program to completely stop and pause its execution at that exact line of code and enter a state of patient waiting where it does nothing else whatsoever until a client program somewhere on the network attempts to connect to our server on port 5000, and the moment a client connection request arrives, the accept method wakes up and processes the incoming connection request and returns a brand new socket object that represents the active two-way communication channel between the server and that specific connected client. We store the socket object returned by server worker.accept in a variable called connection, which represents the live and active communication link between our server and the client that just connected, and this connection object gives us access to all the input and output streams that we need to send data to the client and receive data from the client through the established network connection. We call system.out.println to print the message client has connected to the console, which serves as a real-time notification confirming that a client has successfully established a connection with our server and that the server is now ready to begin communicating with that client through the connection socket. We create a printWriter object called writer by passing connection.getOutput stream to its constructor along with the boolean value true, which enables automatic flushing, meaning that every time we call writer.println, the data is immediately and automatically flushed out through the network connection to the client without us having to manually call a flush method, and the printWriter wraps the raw binary output stream of the socket and gives us a convenient and easy to use interface for sending formatted text data to the connected client. We call writer.println and pass the string hello from the server to it, which sends that greeting message through the network connection directly to the connected client, and because we enabled automatic flushing in the printWriter constructor, the message is immediately transmitted across the network to the client the instant this line of code is executed without any buffering delay. We call connection.close, which properly and gracefully shuts down the socket that represents the communication link between the server and the client and releases all the network resources and port bindings associated with that specific client connection, signaling to the client that the server has finished communicating and is closing the connection from its end. We call server worker.close, which properly shuts down the server socket itself and releases the binding on port 5000 so that other programs can use that port if they need to, and this is the final cleanup step that ensures all network resources used by the server are properly and completely released back to the operating system. The key concept here is that the server socket and socket classes work together as a team to implement the classic server side of a TCP-based client-server communication model, where the server socket acts as the permanent and patient listener that waits indefinitely on a specific port for incoming client connections, and each time a new client connects, the server socket produces a fresh socket object that represents the dedicated and exclusive communication channel for that particular client, allowing the server to send and receive data with that client completely independently of any other clients that may connect in the future. Not all network communication needs to be a steady and continuous and formally established phone call where both parties must be present and actively listening and confirming that every single word is being heard and understood correctly before the conversation can continue, because sometimes the nature of the data being transmitted simply does not require that level of formality and reliability, and in those situations a much lighter and faster approach to communication is not only acceptable but actually preferable and more efficient. Sometimes the communication is much more casual and informal and is more like sending a postcard to a friend where you simply write your message on the card and drop it into the mailbox and then immediately walk away without standing there and waiting for your friend to call you back and confirm that they received it and understood every single word you wrote, because the nature of the message is such that it does not matter critically whether it arrives perfectly or not, and the important thing is that you sent it quickly and moved on with your day without any unnecessary waiting or overhead. This casual and connectionless style of network communication is exactly what we call UDP, which stands for User Datagram Protocol, and it represents a fundamentally different philosophy of network communication compared to TCP, because while TCP is obsessively focused on guaranteeing that every single byte of data arrives at its destination correctly and in the right order, UDP is focused entirely on sending data as quickly and as efficiently as possible without caring too much about what happens to it after it leaves the sender. With a datagram socket, which is the Java class that implements UDP communication, you do not go through any kind of formal connection establishment process, and you do not need to perform any handshaking or negotiation with the receiving end before you start sending data, because the datagram socket is completely connectionless by design, meaning it can send data to any destination at any time without any prior setup or coordination with the recipient whatsoever. You simply take the data that you want to send and put it into a datagram packet, which acts exactly like an envelope in the postal system, because just like an envelope holds your letter safely inside it and has the destination address written on the outside, a datagram packet holds your raw byte data safely inside it and carries the destination IP address and port number that tell the network exactly where the packet needs to be delivered, and once the packet is fully assembled and addressed, you throw it out into the network by calling socket.send, and from that moment forward the packet is on its own, traveling through the network infrastructure towards its destination entirely independently of your program. This approach is incredibly fast and extremely lightweight compared to TCP-based communication, because you do not have to go through the time-consuming process of waiting for the other machine to answer and acknowledge your connection request, and you do not have to wait for confirmation that each packet was received correctly before sending the next one, and you do not have to maintain any ongoing state or session information about the connection, because there is no connection to maintain in the first place, meaning your program can send data and immediately move on to doing other things without any blocking or waiting whatsoever. However, this remarkable speed and efficiency comes with a very significant and important trade-off, which is that UDP provides absolutely no guarantee whatsoever that the packets you send will actually arrive at their intended destination, and no guarantee that they will arrive in the same order in which they were sent, and no guarantee that they will arrive without any corruption or errors, and no built-in mechanism for detecting when a packet has been lost and automatically resending it, which means that if a packet gets dropped or corrupted somewhere along its journey through the network, it is simply gone forever with no automatic recovery. This is precisely why UDP is the preferred and most widely used communication protocol for applications like online video games, where the game needs to send dozens or even hundreds of position and state updates per second to all connected players, and it is perfectly acceptable for an occasional update to be lost, because the next update will arrive very shortly afterwards, and the slight imperfection is far less damaging to the user experience than the severe lag and sluggishness that would result from using the slower and more overhead-heavy TCP protocol. And similarly, for streaming music and video services, where receiving the audio or video data quickly and continuously is far more important than ensuring that every single packet arrives with perfect accuracy, because a tiny momentary glitch in the audio or video stream is much less noticeable and much less annoying to the listener or viewer than a constant buffering and stuttering caused by the overhead of guaranteed delivery. We import all the classes from the java.net package to gain access to the essential networking tools and classes that are required for creating and sending UDP-based datagram packets across a network connection in Java. We create a datagram socket object called socket which represents the communication endpoint through which our Java program will send UDP packets out onto the network, and unlike TCP sockets which require a formal connection to be established before any data can be exchanged, a datagram socket is completely connectionless and can immediately begin sending packets to any destination address and port number without any prior handshaking or connection setup process whatsoever. We declare a string variable called message and assign it the text quick message which represents the actual content and payload that we want to transmit to the receiving end of the network communication, and this is the human-readable data that will be packaged up and sent across the network as a raw datagram packet. We convert the message string into a byte array by calling message.getBytes and storing the result in a byte array variable called buffer, which is an absolutely necessary step because the underlying network infrastructure of the internet and all the networking classes in Java work exclusively with raw binary data in the form of byte arrays rather than high-level Java string objects, meaning that any data we want to send across the network must first be converted down to its raw byte representation before it can be packaged into a network packet and transmitted. We call initaddress.getByname and pass the string localhost to it, which instructs the Java networking system to look up and resolve the network address of the local computer itself and store the resulting initaddress object in a variable called address, and this initaddress object serves as the destination address that tells the datagram socket exactly where on the network it should send the packet, and in this case, since we are using localhost, the packet will be sent right back to the same machine that is running the program. We create a datagram packet object called packet and pass 4 essential pieces of information to its constructor, which are the buffer byte array containing our message data, the length of that buffer which tells the packet exactly how many bytes of data it should include, the address object representing the destination machine, and the port number 7000 which identifies the specific application or service on the destination machine that should receive and handle the incoming packet. We call socket.send and pass our fully assembled packet object to it, which launches the datagram packet out through the datagram socket and sends it flying across the network towards the destination address and port number that we specified, and since UDP is a connectionless and non-guaranteed protocol, this send operation completes immediately without waiting for any acknowledgement or confirmation from the receiving end, meaning the program moves on to the next line of code the instant the packet has been handed off to the underlying network system. We call system.out.println to print the message packet sent to the console, which confirms to us that the socket.send operation completed successfully and that the datagram packet has been handed off to the network layer for delivery to its intended destination. We call socket.close, which properly shuts down and releases the datagram socket and all the underlying network resources and port bindings associated with it, which is an extremely important cleanup step that must always be performed after finishing all network communication, because leaving sockets open and unclosed wastes valuable system resources and can prevent other programs or services from being able to bind to the same port number on the local machine. The key concept here is that UDP communication using datagram socket and datagram packet is a fast and lightweight but fundamentally unreliable method of sending data across a network, because unlike TCP, it provides absolutely no guarantee that the packet will actually arrive at its destination, no guarantee that it will arrive in the correct order if multiple packets are sent, and no built-in mechanism for detecting or recovering from lost or corrupted packets, making it most suitable for applications where speed and low overhead are more important than guaranteed delivery, such as live video streaming, online gaming, and real-time voice communication systems. The most common and most widely used type of networking that we all encounter and rely on every single day without even thinking about it is HTTP, which stands for Hypertext Transfer Protocol, and it is the fundamental and universally agreed upon communication protocol that governs exactly how web browsers and web servers talk to each other and exchange information across the internet. And every single time you type a web address into your browser and Press enter. Your browser is using HTTP behind the scenes to send a request to a remote server and receive the webpage data back in response. Java makes it remarkably straightforward and accessible for developers to download and retrieve data from any website or web server on the internet by providing a powerful and easy-to-use built-in class called URL connection, which handles all the complex low-level details of establishing a network connection and managing the communication between your Java program and the remote server so that you as a developer can focus entirely on what you want to do with the data rather than worrying about the intricate technical details of how the network communication actually works under the hood. Imagine you want to read and examine the raw HTML source code of a webpage directly inside your Java program without using a browser because maybe you want to extract specific information from it or analyze its structure or save it to a file for later processing, and Java gives you all the tools you need to accomplish this in just a few straightforward and intuitive steps that follow a very logical and easy to understand sequence of operations. You start by creating a URL object and passing the complete web address of the target webpage to its constructor, which gives Java a fully structured and properly formatted representation of the location of the remote resource you want to access, including all the necessary components such as the protocol, the domain name, and any additional path information that together uniquely identify the exact resource you are trying to reach on the remote server. You then call the OpenConnection method on your URL object, which instructs the Java networking system to reach out across the internet and establish an active communication link between your running Java program and the remote web server located at the address you specified, and this method returns a URL connection object that represents that active communication channel and provides you with all the methods and tools you need to interact with the remote server and retrieve the data it has to offer. You then call getInputStream on the URL connection object to obtain an input stream, which is the actual data pipeline through which the raw bytes of information flow continuously from the remote web server all the way across the internet and directly into your running Java program, and this input stream is the critical link that makes it possible for your program to actually receive and process the content that the server is sending back in response to your connection request. This input stream is exactly like a straw that you insert directly into the remote website and through which you can suck and pull the raw data of the webpage directly into your program in a continuous and steady flow, just like you would suck a drink through a straw, and just as the drink flows from the glass through the straw and into your mouth, the webpage data flows from the remote server through the input stream and directly into the memory of your running Java program, where you can then do whatever you need to do with it. You can then wrap this input stream inside an input stream reader and further wrap that inside a buffered reader, which gives you the ability to read the incoming data one complete line at a time in a very efficient and convenient manner. And as each line is read into your program, you can choose to display it directly to the console so that you can see the raw HTML source code of the webpage printed out line by line, or you can redirect each line into a file writer or a buffered writer and save all the content permanently to a file on your local disk for future reference processing or analysis, making the entire approach extremely versatile and applicable to a very wide range of real-world networking and data retrieval scenarios. We import all the classes from the java.net package and the java.io package to gain access to the networking tools and input-output utilities that are essential for establishing connections to remote servers and reading the data that comes back from them over the internet. We create a URL object called website and pass the string https://www.google.com to its constructor, which tells the Java networking system the exact location and address of the remote resource we want to connect to, and this URL object serves as the complete and fully structured representation of the web address, including the protocol, the domain name, and any other components that make up the full address of the target server. We call website.openConnection, which instructs the Java networking system to prepare and establish a communication link between a running Java program and the remote server located at the address specified by our URL object, and this method returns a URL connection object which we store in a variable called connection, and this URL connection object represents the active communication channel between our program and the Google server and provides us with all the tools we need to send requests and receive responses through that channel. We create an input stream reader and wrap it around the raw binary input stream that we retrieve by calling connection.getInputStream, which opens the actual data pipeline from the remote Google server to our program and converts the raw binary bytes flowing through that pipeline into readable text characters that our Java program can understand and process properly. We then wrap that input stream reader inside a buffered reader, which we store in a variable called reader, and the purpose of the buffered reader is to add an intelligent buffering layer on top of the input stream reader that significantly improves the efficiency of reading data from the server by reading large chunks of data at once into an internal buffer rather than reading one tiny character at a time, which would be extremely slow and inefficient, especially when dealing with data coming over a network connection. We declare a string variable called line, which will be used to temporarily hold each line of text that we read from the server response as we go through the incoming data one line at a time. We call system.out.println to print the message reading first line of website to the console, which serves as a descriptive label that clearly indicates to the user what the program is about to do next before it actually reads and displays the data from the server. We use an if statement, and inside its condition we call reader.readLine, which attempts to read one complete line of text from the buffered input stream coming from the Google server and assigns the result to our line variable, and we check whether the returned value is not equal to null, which confirms that the server actually sent back some data and that we successfully read a line of text rather than reaching the end of the stream immediately. We call system.out.println inside the if block and pass the line variable to it, which prints the first line of the raw HTML source code of the Google website to the console, giving us a direct glimpse into the actual underlying code that the Google server sends back to any client that connects to it and makes a request. We call reader.close, which properly and gracefully closes the buffered reader and all the underlying streams and connections associated with it, which is an extremely important step that must always be performed after finishing reading from any network connection or input stream, because failing to close these resources properly can result in network connections being left open, unnecessarily consuming system resources and potentially causing connection leaks that degrade the performance of the program over time. The key concept here is that the combination of URL and URL connection and buffered reader and input stream reader working together forms a complete and functional pipeline for establishing a network connection to any remote server on the internet and reading the raw data that the server sends back in response, which is the fundamental building block upon which all more complex Java networking and web communication features are built. I hope this explanation helped you clearly understand the networking and its core components in a structured and easy way. Continue learning, keep practicing, and stay consistent with your preparation. More detailed concepts are coming next.